Hello and welcome to Check 1 2, where we give you the lowdown on testicular cancer by talking to survivors, advocates and supporters of Testicular Cancer Awareness here at the world famous podcast studio Glasgow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Ingram Noble, the creator of the powerful new play Naked Neds, and actor Lewis Gillon, who plays the character Cami in the same play. The Naked Neds tells the story of four mates who are still grieving the loss of their best friend who decide to do something bold, to strip off and raise awareness for mental health and testicular cancer. For me, as someone who's been through a cancer diagnosis and knows the mental battles that come with it, this story felt incredibly real. It shows exactly why checking yourself, speaking up and looking after each other matters, because silence costs lives. We'll be talking about the real life scare that led Ingram to create the play, how Lewis brought the character of Cami to life, and why using platforms like theatre can break through where statistics and health campaigns sometimes can't. If you're a young guy listening today, or if you just know someone who is, I hope this conversation inspires you to check yourself, check in on your mates, and never be afraid to speak up. Ladies and gentlemen, Ingram Noble and Lewis Gillon.
Hello, my name is Ingram Noble. I'm a writer, director, actor, multi-hyphenate person, I don't know. And I'm the writer of The Naked Neds. I think my relationship with testicular cancer is one that's sort of very far away, but has become very close. Last year, one of my friends had a scare, and we all very much quickly realised that we had no clue what to do. So that's pretty much, and then I was like, I'm going to write the play, and I had the idea for about 2 years, and it was sat in my back pocket, and that sort of spearheaded and kickstarted it, and now we're out on tour.
Brilliant. Yeah.
My name is Lewis Gillon. I'm an actor in The Naked Neds. I play the character of Cami, and I'm very lucky. I've not really got a relationship with testicular cancer. Nobody even close to me's had a scare, which is quite rare, I think, if I'm honest.
Yeah, especially when when we go about anywhere, like the amount of people who you're like, oh, my friends, uncles, you know what I mean? There's always somebody that's kind of had, but that's good that you haven't had anything kind of close to you. I suppose just starting off, it's just tell us a little about Naked Neds. You know, again, just kind of flush out the inspiration behind it, and having not seen it but having been allowed to read the script, I was blown away by it.
Thank you very much.
I think the writing really captures what it is like to be a bunch of friends and dealing with these quite deep and emotional themes of, if there's male suicide, testicular cancer and all these things that men do to who are not ready to kind of explore that emotional gambit that's put in front of them. Just a little bit about it for everybody.
So about 2 years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night as like a weirdo, and I very clearly had this dream of three boys in a toilet in the pub checking the balls. And I don't know why I whispered the word balls. My mum's not listening to this, it's fine. And I wrote it down, and I never quite knew who they were, what they were doing, or in what point in life they were at. But I had this very clear idea, and it stuck with me. And normally if I have an idea and I don't do anything, it goes away in 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I kept constantly thinking about these people and who they were. So then last year I was on another tour, and we had a bit of a break in between. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do something with this. And a couple of months before, one of my friends had a scare. Thankfully, it was nothing. But as a group of 20-something-year-olds, and I'd say that because I'm closer to 30 than I'd like to admit.
I'm further away from 30 than I want to admit, so...
I'm in the sweet spot.
None of us had any clue, and we've all done... I know how to work out the area of a triangle, I've learnt foreign languages, I've had those really shitty sex ed classes that's so basic enough just for somebody to tick a box, this is the type of lube you use, whatever. But nobody ever, and I've done 2 primary schools, 2 secondary schools, 2 universities, and nobody ever stood up in front of me and said, this is how you check yourself. Mm-hmm. And when I thought about that, I was like, that's a bit mad, isn't it? Mm. That because I, as a person, will never use Pythagoras ever again in my life. Got me through my GCSEs, and then never again. But that, it's something that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And it was quite alarming, actually, that nobody had ever done it. So the whole play started off with that one scene in the pub toilets, and then they sort of I don't know, came walking out of my head and the story came.
Yeah, how amazing though as well, and like, you know, hearing that, and then you kind of coming on board to play, it's Cammy, right?
Yes.
You play, so when you've stepped into that kind of character's shoes, and you did you then start thinking differently about your own health when you read a script like that as well?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing was Naked Neds ran last year and I wasn't involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much I'm allowed to say.
You say whatever you want.
I was asked to be involved and I couldn't commit to it at the time, and then it came back round again and Ingram was like, I've got an idea for a rewrite, we're going to introduce a new character because you'd fell in love with the cast so much.
Yeah.
I wasn't replacing
I
anybody that was
couldn't replace
clear.
any of them.
So it was nice to be asked back, and then we sat down, we spoke about it, and we thought Cammy's got to have a beginning, a middle and an end.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like, and what's the approach to it? But yeah, like you say, he's a character who you just wish would have spoken up, and I'm quite lucky. I've always been able to speak up to my pals. Like, I think being vulnerable is absolutely fine, and nobody should see any shame in it. I've kind of always had that, so I'm very lucky.
Yeah, which is great as well. And I was the same. Like, I've told the story in the podcast before, but like me and my friends, you know, for all there's lots of similarities between like the group that's in the play. The one thing is that we've always been able to kind of talk to each other and saying like the way that the months before I found my testicular cancer, one of my mates were in a stag do. He's like, because I worked in the NHS, it was mental health, so it was only up here. But he's like, I've got this weird feeling on my balls. Like, do you know anything about that? I was like, geez, I feel. And I always like to say that I John Coffeyed his cancer because he ended up with nothing and I ended up with cancer 4 months later.
Yeah, you got it.
So, but I think that's the great thing about when I've read the play, like, what you're seeing within that is that it's a shame that, you know, that they represent so much of Scotland, of guys who aren't comfortable. And I think that's the thing that what the biggest take back that I got for it's like that, how do you take that step to then speak about it as well?
And it's so simple. It's the unspoken sentence. As soon as you say that first sentence, you realise that you're all worried about something.
Yeah.
And it's just, and that's what the play is. It's this. You'll find these boys in any pub across the world. They sit in the same seats at the same table. They tell the same stories, same jokes, but they all hide something. Whether it's my character who puts on a bravado but isn't comfortable with his body. Paul is very obviously, played by the wonderful Lucian Bellingham, is very obviously distraught about the death of his best friend and then finds a lump. Tony's older and he's just a whole other mess. And then Harry is in the closet. And they're all worried about something, but there's all this just massive bravado on it. And if you go into any pub in the world, there will be a group of lads that put on a massive bravado, and deep down they're all worried about something.
Yeah.
And that's what has been so absolutely wonderful when people have came to the show and come and seen it, and then they come away and they're like, do you know what? Yous can do that on stage in front of hundreds of people. I'm being generous. We can go and do that together in the pub. Do you know what I mean? And that's my job done. When people can come and say, I've had this conversation or I've done this, like, it means everything. Yeah.
I think like the biggest, like, obviously because the character Paul, like, and me being called Paul, but the biggest thing that, like, when it was one of the lines, it was I've not even started living and I'm already on my way out. And I felt exactly like that. You know, I'd just turned 30, you know, life was starting to get really good, and then you get hit with a cancer diagnosis. And that it was certain lines, like, see, as a testicular cancer survivor and somebody who's worked in mental health, somebody who's had, you know, friends who have been in the closet and came out and things like that. I mean, again, like you say, like that group of people was just like, it was like reading.
It's not unique.
Yeah, it's not. You know, it's like we're all together. You know, and I think that was the biggest thing, that when you read it and the way that the writing was, that and especially with each character. And when you look at, you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to kind of like talk about the character of Cammy or, you know.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
Well, I read button.
Red.
Oh, there's plenty of editing time as well. But I just think, like, I think based on Paul's kind of relationship with him, you know, and that kind of like everybody has that one pal who's kind of like steady and things like that, and then you look, and I've had that happen to me where you go, how did they die and I've got this and I'm still here. I think that was the kind of thing that
survivor's guilt.
Yeah, it got me, you know, and I think when, you know, I suppose it's, how did you take that, you know, the thought of all the themes that you've put into this, especially, you know, the cancer themes and the kind of and the themes of death, but how do you go from making that so jovial at times and the jokes that are there, and was it something that you wanted to challenge? Was that stereotypical norm when you wrote Naked Neds?
So I think the first thing is with the cancer stuff, I had a bit of a bee in my bonnet, and I was like, this is ridiculous that people aren't being told this.
Yeah.
And then very sadly with the suicide stuff, it was from personal experience. I've lost a few friends over the years, and it was about sitting and thinking, if I was in trouble, those were the people that I kind of want to talk to about it, and what would I say to them if they manifested in front of me? Because it's not Cammy that's in the show, it's Paul's version of Cammy that we see, and which then sort of reinforces the point is you've got all the answers in your head. Do you know what I mean? There's that very famous joke about depression. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
But no, I think, especially when it comes to comedy and when you're dealing with Glaswegians, everything's comedy.
Yeah.
And despite the accent, I am a Glaswegian, lived here all of my life. So the comedy came second nature, and it's about making people feel comfortable because they've said all of these jokes like they have in the pub.
Yeah.
Their mates have cracked the same stuff. And then it happens very quickly. They're all laughing and joking about doing a full Monty. And then Paul tells us all he's found a lump.
Yeah.
Or they're all laughing and joking again about doing a full Monty. And Jamie, who has this sort of bravado, again, not to continue using the same words, but he has this character of a hard man, and he likes to play with matches and all of this stuff. And then he kind of breaks down in front of the audience. The other boys aren't sort of aware to it. And he has this big speech about not feeling comfortable with his body. And I don't know, the comedy has to come into it because you don't want people sitting there crying for an hour and a half. So you have to give them something. And then realistically, the whole aim is to teach people how to check themselves. And that's ridiculous in its own sense that 3 boys are on a stage playing with themselves. Like, if you put it that way, it kind of sounds perverted. So it has to be funny. But then when you equip that with, in the program we have Cahonas self-check guide.
Yep.
So they take that away and then they go, oh, that's how he did it. And the comedy links and it adds to muscle memory. And people can go away and hopefully they can take more if we were just sat around the pub table going, oh, I've heard this is how you do that. So it was more action rather than listening, and comedy came second nature.
Yeah. And I think it's a typical Scottish thing, right? To kind of go like, this is something that is serious, but let's make the jokes about it. You know, like I know when I do talks, the first thing I'll say to try and, you know, ease everybody in, like I always put the picture of me up with I'm bald headed, going through chemo, and I'm like, so this is me looking like Uncle Fester, you know, and you get people going, all right, and it's like, so yeah, you know, I know, understand, my name's Paul, I've got one ball, I'm one ball Paul, I've been called 50 Cent, I've been called half sack, you know, it's like, and you just see the kind of, you see them straighten up, but you also see the relief of this isn't going to be, and I think certainly like from what you're describing, that's kind of the aim of you know how you want to deliver. It's light-hearted, but it's serious. It's deep, but it's comedic. You know, and it drives that point home. Which, again, it's great because you know, I'm like 40. You're 30.
Young, 26.
24.
So
24.
So.
But
there's the kind of going down of the kind of the decades, and
Lucian's 19.
Yeah, it's like we're not one of us is able to turn around and say, yeah, I got taught how to check myself.
No,
which is crazy.
You know? And that's where the comedy comes in because it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so much easier for people to go away and go, just saw this really funny thing, and actually this happens instead of going, you can't believe what I've just sat through. It was so grim. and then the conversation doesn't go anywhere. But if it's based around comedy, or let me tell you this joke that was in this play and then this happened, just makes it easier for somebody to go and sit in the local and have a conversation with their mates about it.
And I suppose like if you're preparing for like a role as an actor, how much does that then influence the way that you're going to try and portray the character that you're playing, knowing that you have to be conscious of a silence and bottled up stuff?
Yeah, well, it's tricky because it's like Ingram said earlier, you're playing a version of the character in someone else's head, so you kind of have to do justice to that, and it's more of a case of you're playing Paul's worst nightmare, so you have to be as real and as genuine with that. But yeah, in terms of like reaching out to people, like I've always been quite good that way as well, because I'm quite good at speaking out myself. I'm quite observant in terms of if someone's having a shit day, I'm quite good at picking up on that.
Point at me when you say that.
Yeah. He's absolutely fuming this morning. Yeah. No, so I think I'm quite good that way. I'm always, probably my pals are a bit too much sometimes. Like, give us a break, Lewis, I'm fine. I'll talk to you when I'm ready, do you know? So and then you go, right, no, well, that's fine. And then you come back to it when everyone's ready to speak. But I think when everyone opens up, it's the weight that comes off your shoulders when you open up to one of your mates. I'll never understand not being able to do that, because I was a sensitive kid, so I think it just comes from there, do you know? I
just being like kind of be freely talking about stuff, and and I think it's great that, you know, there's that emphasis, like again, like on testicular cancer, and the fact that, you know, there is almost like if they've got that in the program, there's something happening on stage. There's also the self-check guide. It's like you're putting everything, you know, together. And as, you know, somebody who's, you know, writing it, who's in it, you know, somebody who's acting in it, is there a sense of responsibility then? Do you feel that sense of social responsibility when you're talking about these types of heavier topics?
100%. That's why I emailed Cahonas last year.
Yeah.
I was like, please help.
It's a lovely, I don't want to say fourth wall break, but that is kind of what it is, that moment in it. But it's a case of, and I think there's jokes made during it, but they're light-hearted. You know, it's genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we have to get it right, especially with the amount of young people that came to the show. Don't worry, you have to be over 18. We're stripping it, so don't bring children.
I don't.
Rub it in.
That's what she said.
The amount of young people that came to the show last year, you have to get it right, because I'd be a hypocrite to be like, people aren't teaching this.
Yeah.
And then for me to stand up on stage and be like, oh, well, this is how you do it. And people are like, no, it's not. So there's 100% a massive social responsibility. And when I wrote Lewis's character this year, there was a responsibility in that, because you don't know how people are feeling in the audience and you don't want to shame people. You've torn a fine line, and I really do hope that I've got it right. Because it all comes back to me.
I think we're both ready. You have.
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
Thank you very
much. You have.
We'll see what the critics think.
That's our fault.
Well, listen, you've got somebody who has had testicular cancer and has read it, and I'm your best critic, so it's great. So
anybody comes to me, I'm sending them your number.
Yeah, exactly. Just like point them in my direction. But I think that's the thing as well, though. It's so. There is still such a taboo, and as we've just kind of talked about, you know, it's hard when you look at three guys sitting here of different age ranges that have never been talked about, never been exposed to the information properly, and you know, and even like Cahonas has been going around since 2009, and we still even find it difficult that there's still people who maybe even haven't heard of the charity, because testicular cancer is still so taboo. And to have like you guys out there representing us within that, I was going to say theatre, but because it's literally the theatre, but you know what I mean?
Of course,
it's literally the theatre of it all, you know. I think that's...
But that's what theatre is. It has to reflect life. And I think that's what's engaging about the Naked Neds, is it reflects life. We're not pretending, well, I mean, not to sort of be wanky about it. We're not pretending to be other people, but we are. It's life, and people, I guarantee, or I'll give you your money back, if you come and see this show, you will relate to at least 3 of the characters.
Yeah.
You will know a Paul, you'll know a Jamie, you'll know a Bev. Like, I guarantee that, or I'll give you your money back.
Yeah. I even just thought again on.
Should I say that online?
Probably not.
I'll put an asterisk next to that, and it's a disclaimer.
Terms and conditions
terms and conditions apply.
I was going to say there's less Harrys in the world, but they are there.
Yeah.
But it's such an important thing, especially then. It's because it does push the boundaries on what male masculinity should be.
Yeah.
I think, growing up in a ever changing world anyway, where it's viewed so differently, how does that then fit when you're on stage? What's the reaction been like, for yourself as writer,
Out of this
actor,
world.
is it
Genuinely, the good thing, right, was last year we did it. We were in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Cahonas, Irvine, and I'm missing somewhere. We went somewhere else. I'm very sorry. I can't remember. And
You did
Glasgow, Edinburgh, Irvine, and Cahonas. I think that might have been it. Sorry if I've missed you out. And every audience came on the ride with us.
Yeah.
Irvine was absolutely mad, and I think that might have been.
You've banged on that
Yeah,
show quite
right.
a lot.
But I think it was because it was the first venue we did where there was a bar, right?
Right.
So they were all slightly tipsy, and
Don't mind it.
we came out, and they got on board straight away.
Yep.
They laughed with us, they cried with us, and when it came to the end where we did the full Monty,
Yep.
the place went mental.
Aye.
And it was genuinely, nothing is more fulfilling. It's been brilliant, and it's
Yeah.
been the highlight of my life so far.
Yeah, and I suppose for you, Lewis, you'll be glad to know now that's you. It's kind of came full circle that you're now able to kind of come back into it as well.
I saw the dress rehearsal last year because I was jetting off. I was getting on a train. Don't know why I said jet. I was off on quite a lengthy tour.
You went to Hull.
Yeah. No, I spent an hour in Hull, and I'll never get that hour back. It was awful. But no, so I only got to see the kind of dress rehearsal.
And we'll be in Hull next month, ladies and gentlemen. Get your
We're
tickets.
not doing Hull. We're not doing Hull. I don't plan to
What have you got against Hull?
No, it was awful, honestly. It was disgusting. But I technically was in the Naked Neds last year.
You were a
I've done
voiceover?
I've done a voiceover.
Oh, did you?
I played
Lucian's big brother.
Lucian's big brother, yeah. Yeah, so that was interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting going with it
Yep.
and getting that kind of feedback as well. That's the thing about theatre, your feedback's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, it's like, if it was rubbish, you'll know.
Yeah.
They'll let you know.
We did in Edinburgh.
Was Edinburgh a tough crowd, was it?
They were just, I think, whereas we'd just done 2 sold out Glasgow nights,
Yeah.
which was mad. And then we went to Edinburgh and they were all kind of very politely sitting there. And you could see in their faces they were enjoying it. But I was like, why are you not laughing?
Yeah.
Why not laughing? And it was a dead quiet show. And it was the juxtaposition of going from a mad crowd on Bath Street in Glasgow to
Yeah.
a quiet
no
Edinburgh
crowd's the
audience.
same. No crowd's the same. No.
Because I've had a couple of comedians on as well, and I've spoke to them about that, and like the Glasgow to the Edinburgh crowds are such a different animal.
Oh,
as such
sometimes
as
it
well.
can be humiliating.
Yeah.
We were doing a show last year. In the show, there was this party scene, and there was involved a lot of blown up condoms. And we had danced to House of Fun, and I went out there, and like everywhere else, they joined us, and they were singing along to the song, which is bad theatre etiquette. Maybe don't do that. But they sat there, stone cold silent, and I was like, this is what humiliation is.
Does it feel like you're bombing when that type of thing happens, or does it just?
You just feel like, when you're doing something and you're going, everyone's looking at me for the wrong reasons. Yeah. That's what happens.
Right.
I've done a lot of theatre and education, so
Right.
a lot of times you do the schools, and sometimes if you get, it can be tough.
Yeah.
I won't go into it too much due to safeguarding and stuff. I'm not allowed to, but yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
You'll never do tougher crowds. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
That's why I don't do theatre
But they're,
education.
no, but they're also the best. When they love it, they're the best crowds because they're missing maths. They're coming to see you. But then we did, I won't name the school, but it was like an academy school.
right.
And they were all missing football training, and they were just sat there like that, like fuming. Yeah, it's tough.
I done that. I done a talk at Clydebank High.
Oh no, wait, I'm Yoker. Just before Clydebank,
right.
I'm over that
So,
way, aye.
well, our office is just along at the Titan Enterprise.
Oh, right, aye,
yeah,
oh,
so
yeah,
that's
aye.
where we were based. So we went into Clydebank High, and the exact same thing was happening.
Tough kids,
they were
aye.
like, we're missing football for this, and I'm like, I'm really going to have to. And the PE teachers were there, and I thought, do you know what? And I stripped it all down to just going, I'm going to talk to these if I was 15, 16 years old, you called me a kid, I would have hated it. But it's when you're talking to these kids, and I was like, listen, didn't fuck about, you know.
I know, of course. And they just went, oh, he's cool. He said a swear word. Like instantly, it's the most mental thing. Yeah.
And they are tough crowds though, because you get some schools you go to, and it's like, I think as well, my pop culture references are getting far too old.
Same. I reference things, right? So normally, like every other show that I've done, it's like my age. Like me and my writing partner were the same age, and normally it's older people. But with the Naked Neds cast, I think I'm the second oldest. And I referenced, what did I reference the other day? I think it was a kid.
Ricky Hatton.
Yes, Ricky Hatton.
We changed it in the script.
There's a reference to Ricky Hatton in the script.
I'm a boxing
and one
fan,
of them
so I know who
said,
he is.
who's Ricky Hatton?
Yeah, it was Lucian, he's 19.
And I was like, I'm not even a sports fan, and I know who Ricky Hatton
What a
is.
shame.
Like, but I'll make references all the time to Still Game. Like, we were talking earlier about Karen Dunbar. Lewis said, who's Karen Dunbar?
I've seen Still Game, I've not seen Chewing the Fat. I
I
do
was
apologise.
like, what? So now I feel ancient.
Yeah. It kills you when it happens, because you're like, oh, they don't know who this is.
Yeah. I need to get on TikTok. Who are we talking about?
Do you know what it is? I don't have TikTok, but it's brain rot as well. They'll just say this one thing, you've no idea what... A kid... You might need to cut this out, but a kid put his hand up and asked me if I was zesty. I was like, I have no idea what that means, mate, sorry. And then, like, but my mate was like, oh, you handled that really well. I was like, no, I genuinely don't know what it means.
Means you're gay.
Yeah, it means you're gay. And I'm like,
Right.
I feel like...
I asked Lewis the same question the first time we met.
I'm like, no.
I'm not actually.
And then the minute you're overcompensating.
Did you go full bam? No, I'm no.
To be fair, no, I was in Bradford, which again is...
Are you zesty, bro?
Absolutely. No, I tell a lie, it was Doncaster.
I suppose as well, like when, like exactly all these types of things and these types of conversations are the thing that kind of keep testicular cancer awareness kind of moving forward, and it's something that when you kind of do it in theatre, do you think there is? Why do you think there's such a visceral reaction to a topic such as testicular cancer? Why do you think you get the audience engaged so much when it's theatre, you know, or when it's something that's creative? Because you can talk about it in a capacity that's maybe not, it could be, you know, death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But then why do you think it impacts when you're seeing something like that?
I think you can relate to it, like you said earlier, because you know these characters. There's people like that everywhere. So I think it's just a case of you can relate to it so much easier than a PowerPoint, like you say, words on a screen. Do you know?
I think it also comes down to the circumstance in which you're seeing it. Because if this was a TV drama, it wouldn't have half the effect. Like Lewis was just talking about brain rot. We all sit and watch the telly with TikTok in our hand. We're watching TikTok and the telly at the same time, talking about what we're going to have for our dinner. Whereas in a theatre, you've got to turn your phone off. You're sat there in basic silence, and so you have no option but to watch what's happening. So you take it in, because you've not got 1,000,001 things. Like if you genuinely go and sit and watch a TV show without a phone, without any interactions, you watch the TV show. Whereas we sit and we're like,
there's a bit at the start of the
that's
play.
good. Do you know what I mean? But whereas when you're sitting in a dark theatre watching us idiots on stage, you have no option but to sit and watch or walk out.
Yeah. And that's the power of it then, is it? Because there's been times where
they're captive.
Yeah, exactly. They're caught.
I've locked the doors. They can't get out.
Now you paid your money. You've all listened to us talk bollocks.
Yeah, this is it.
But I think there's like, because you've seen over the years, like there's maybe been testicular cancer storylines in TV, like you say, but nobody remembers it or thinks about it, or they kind of relate it to something else. You know, I heard somebody recently talking about, because we had been in somewhere and somebody approached me and said, oh yeah, there's the guy in Coronation Street who's got testicular cancer and as part of the storyline. And
Kevin Webster's been through a lot.
I know, it's like, you're like, a poor guy, you know what I mean? But it's like you think, but they conflated it with prostate cancer as well. And I think that's the thing. It's like, even though they're trying to kind of shoehorn these things in, the way that it just hits the character, but there's no clear, like, okay, like, well, how do you check yourself? You know, I think, and that's probably what, when you've got a captive audience in the theatre, you're able to kind of do, you're able to kind of actually explore the intricacies then of what testicular cancer is and how you can check for it, and
Yeah.
you know, all that type of thing as well.
I think also, very sadly, there has to be a bit of shock value to it to grab people's attention. Because like you said, it's been on television for years and years and various storylines. The only thing I viscerally remember was Chris Hughes on This Morning doing a self-check.
Guy from Love
But
Island,
that's,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
that's the shock is he had his balls out on This Morning. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Michael Lavelle, as much as he's a brilliant actor, I don't remember any scenes that he's done. And because there's no shock value, but when you see our poster and it's 4 of us naked on the poster, covered with various objects, that's the shock value. So then they come and see it because, I mean, some women might want to see the rest of the boys naked. I'm sure they're not there for me.
You never know, mate.
They would never know. But there has to be some sort of shock value to get people interested, I think. And I think that's sad.
Yeah, meh. But it's much like anything, unfortunately, when it comes to anything to do with male health or male issues as such is like. And have you found that like during your kind of your writing process, you know, anything that you've learned about just the male psyche around it? Or have you found different ways of approaching how you can speak about different issues like that?
So I think, like, I was a right weirdo when I was writing it because I was running around going to people, do you know how to check your pulse? Like, people genuinely probably were worried.
It was 2 in the morning. Like, I don't really know what he texted me to.
Well, I was at the window, right? I wanted to let in. I think the way that I then I just had to tackle it. There was, because if I was going to err around it, there was no point in doing it, because what my aim was to make it, to show how easy it was to have these conversations. So if I aired around it or danced around the plot, it was never going to work. Yeah. And it would have been somebody sitting here going, did you see that play last week? Shite.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I think like, the way that it is written, and again, I'm not blowing smoke because you're in front of me. I think like,
honestly, keep going.
I love the way that
I don't want to leave.
It's certain lines that will drag you back into the seriousness of it. And I think that the big one that caught me was our pal killed himself and we fucking missed it. Like, I got goosebumps now, like just saying the line out loud, because as young men, and the thought of losing a friend via any circumstance, you know, and you know, obviously you've had a personal situation where that's happened. I lost a close friend as well. It wasn't through suicide or cancer, but it was he died before he should have, you know. And I think it's so impactful to have these things that, you know, there's like, oh, they're going to get naked at the end, there's this, but actually when it's hard hitting as that, and it just resonated with me in such a powerful way. And you know, for yourself, Lewis, as somebody who's getting to act with that type of writing, how do you compartmentalise like the character that you're having to play, or the character that is in somebody's head that's in the play? How is that for you then?
I was chatting earlier, it's actually quite, my job's a lot easier when you're working with someone like Lucian, and I'm not going to blow too much smoke up his backside, so I do need to look him in the eye after this. But
I'll say he's absolutely brilliant.
He's brilliant. His reactions and his facial expressions and his body language as well, they're so telling, they're so real. And it makes bad job. How old is Lucian? 19. Yeah, I will not be surprised if in a few years he's ignoring your phone calls. Like,
I know where he lives, so it's fine. I'm not going to know.
I'm not going to blow too much smoke up his backside, but he's shit hot in it, and he makes my job so much easier. And it's because I've got some lines that are hard hitting, but they don't need to be said in a certain way, because he's your scene partner. You're in it together. Do you know, you're trying to make the audience feel something
very generous
together.
Right.
Yeah, he's very talented.
Yeah, and I suppose in the when we were speaking kind of off camera as well, you know, like the like your run last year and how that kind of camaraderie as well. So when you first started putting the cast together and you were pitching the play and you were casting for it, you know, was there something in particular looking for? Were you looking for people to kind of who had read it and went, yes, I'd get that, or
such FOMO?
Oh, this is when we need to expose my secrets. So you don't get the whole play at the beginning,
right?
Purely because I don't want anyone to copy me. And it's it's a longer process from casting to, you get cast and then you go away for a couple of months and then it starts. So it's like, you're not getting the full play in case you don't get the job, and then you make this before I get a chance. Weirdly enough, the casting call got picked up by Glasgow Live, and we were influxed with people that had never acted before. Should I tell some of the madder stories?
I don't know.
I had a guy submit a self-tape, totally topless in his kitchen. Ooh. I had a woman audition.
And Lucian got the part. That was amazing.
Lucian got the part. Yeah, he was great. I had a woman audition who didn't get the role and then offered to hire me a pit bull for the play.
I'm surprised you're going there.
I mean, we can't tell these stories. So it was a bit mad. Initially, I wrote the part of Paul for Lewis.
Oh, you're going there?
And he wasn't available. I wrote the part of Jamie for myself because I'm a detention seeker. I wrote the part of Tony for John Stewart, who then did the part. Tanya McDonald, really good friend of mine, had done This Is Where We Get Off with her before. Was out with her last night, actually. And then Lucian was Tanya's ex-student.
Right.
So Tanya had taught Lucian drama at secondary school.
Wow.
And he came recommended. He auditioned for a different part and was absolutely brilliant. Ended up playing Paul. And Aidan auditioned. So Aidan's the only person that actually auditioned and wasn't a Nepo cast.
Wow, that's fun. I went to school with Aidan, so we know each other quite well.
Right.
He's very outgoing, so I'm not surprised his tape was like amazing.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then this year, Hannah's a really good friend of mine, so when Bev wasn't available, let's come back on this, when Tanya wasn't, not Bev, when she's doing another play. When she wasn't available, I spoke to Hannah, spoke to her about the show. She was instantly like, yes, I'd love to do it.
That's great.
And Barry.
I love how Barry's like Cher, just like no second name, just Barry.
Yeah.
Barry.
No, Barry's brilliant.
He's good.
He's great. So he auditioned for the show last year, and when John couldn't come back because John's training to be a teacher, God help your children. No, I'm joking. He's brilliant. When John wasn't available, I got back in touch with Barry.
Right.
So it was a lot of nepotism.
Right.
But I think as well it was just like...
nice to be asked back though. I can imagine it must have felt quite good for him just to like not have to go through the audition process again and just get...
It's also something I'm passionate about, so you have to work with people that you're going to get on with and people that you enjoy just being around, especially... We're doing 9 days at the Fringe, so we're going to be together from like 9 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night every night, and then go and do the show. So you have to like the people to sort of spend that much time with them.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the Fringe, to be fair.
I know, sacked.
Sacked.
I don't like the M8 anyway. So it's fine. It's fine.
Well, it makes torture then now. So it's but I suppose as well, it's like then when you've got your ensemble together and. People who, like us all, haven't, the those of the cast who have testicles, and then they're able to kind of face the...
And I mean, Hannah's got bigger balls than all of us, do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't fight her.
No, me neither. She just told me she was going to Australia for a month, and I was like, okay.
She's to the racing fight to the
see you later.
She's for Fife, isn't she?
Yeah, she's from Fife.
No.
Explains a lot.
You don't scrap people like that.
She phoned me like 3 days after the photo shoot and was like, I've just booked a trip to Australia. I'm away for a month and 4 days. I was like, okay, have a lovely time. Bring me back something Australian.
Like, cheers very
She's
much.
brought the sun back, to be fair.
Yeah, she has brought the sun back. She's back now though, so we're back in full swing in rehearsals this week.
Be good to see her.
Yeah, and when you obviously you're kind of going through the testicular cancer things and like that within the play, like, did you find that and this includes yourself, when you're reading all this, did it make you think more about how to check yourself and what to do?
Yeah, it did, especially that scene we spoke about earlier. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was the camaraderie they all have and they're on each other's case all the time. But the minute Paul comes clean, there's a scene where I think it's 3 of them are in there, and it's a case of not to tell him, drop what you're doing and go now.
Yeah, they do take the mic, but then they instantly go and check themselves. They take the mic, instantly say, I'll finish your shift, go to the doctors. Do you know, which is life.
Yeah.
Like, I keep saying it's life. I mean, I'm not that good of a writer. And we do, if somebody said something to me, I'd be like, right, go. Yeah. I don't know how to butcher meat, but I will finish your shift in the butchers. Do you know what I mean?
Into it,
So I don't know. It's just one of them. Sorry, I totally interrupted.
No, not at all. No, you finished it perfectly.
But I think it's good as well that, like, you're having that impact. Like, going forward as a cast member, like, you've now got a skill that we should all be taught.
Yeah.
Now that you know that how to check yourself, why you should be checking yourself, and I think that won't come with every job that you take. You know, to have that, even though you obviously you've said that you work in kind of like educational theatre as well. Like they're all.
Don't show kids how to check your balls. That might get you in some trouble.
I do. I go to schools and things like that. It's not just in the park. I don't like just go to the park and like kids, come here. It's a very different type of talk. But it's because Naked Neds is laced with such, you know, dark humour, and it is about that kind of survival and showing us how, you know, to laugh even in the kind of darkest of times. What is it that made you want to kind of write it in that way anyway? You know, is it fully just because of personal experience and that's how you choose to write something?
I think it's the easiest way to make people take something away from it.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, if I could have went a totally different way, where these people, because there are people out there that don't want to get involved with serious subjects, he could have been left all on his own. But if you make a laugh and a joke about it, it's easier for people then to go, by the way, Lewis, I went and seen this play earlier, hilarious as fuck, and then, I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass at all, and then they did this really cool thing where they check themselves, and then there's the open of the conversation, and then I've got the program, look, this is how you do it. It just, I don't know, guards come down, and that's where the sort of, I don't know, stigma, is that the right word, comes from, because people think they're going to be laughed at or mocked or not taken seriously because they're worried about this really serious issue. But if you do it in a funny, ridiculous way, it becomes a topic of conversation without them realising they're talking about checking their balls. Yeah. And then the light bulb goes off and they go, we've just had our first conversation about balls around a table at a pub. And that's where my job ends. And as long as I get that, and people, if one person checks themselves and goes to the doctor, if one person says to a friend, I'm not okay, I've won the lottery. And I can walk away happy. Doesn't matter about star ratings, doesn't matter what critics think, kind of matters what ends up in my bank account at the end of it. But as long as people are educated, if one person does all of those things, I've won. Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of big important thing, isn't it? It's like, in my job, I'm the same. You know, if I can draw enough people in when I'm giving my talk based on my personal experience, if I can get one person to go away and check out of 30, then, you know, it might sound defeatist, but it's like, if one person does it, I've done my job. And you know, and I always talk about this, because if it wasn't for Richie and starting Cahonas and putting the self-check guide out here, I might not be here, because I found my lump because of Richie putting that stuff out there. And if I hadn't had found that, and maybe didn't have checked the way that, you know, I'd seen that he'd put in the self-check guide, you know, my cancer could have spread, all these things that you could have snowballed, And I think that's the big thing. Every time we go somewhere, especially football clubs, and you get these professional football players kind of like, they're having to get a meeting, they're looking at their watches ready to go home, but by the end of it, you know, they're grateful that you've came in. And to a club, I think there's always been somebody reached out afterwards and went, listen, I've kind of had a problem and I've never wanted to talk about it. And or even guys coming up to me, like there was at one of the clubs recently, there was 3 of them came up and talked, you know, I've never said this to him, and but I've got this issue. And I think that's what Naked Neds is certainly going to do, and reach a different type of audience than what we are able to reach as well, because it's like we try our hardest to tick boxes of how can we get into this. It's like, so you go to football because it's a high concentration, but you're going to get people who aren't sporty, who aren't, you know, athletes, who are more sensitive and into the arts and will go to theatre, and you don't want to miss that. So to have a play like Naked Neds deliver such a powerful message that Cahonas is trying to put out there, it's quite unbelievable, actually, you know.
It's the feedback has been brilliant, and I mean, you get the feedback of brilliant show, and I take it as it comes. I'm not good at giving myself compliments, or people will tell you what they thought, but the messages that got me were a couple of days after, and I got a message from one person in particular that said, I found something. I wouldn't have found it if it wasn't for you. I'm going to the doctors. And I said, okay, let me know how it goes. Don't worry about it. It could be anything. Pretending I'm a medical professional.
Nobody is.
About a week later.
Plenty of people are.
Yeah, plenty of people are, not me. Got a message about a week later, went and seen it. It was nothing, but could have been something.
Yeah.
And I was like, isn't that mad that something that I wrote in my little bedroom has done that?
I think the thing that you are missing as well, that there's something that, you know, as you've just put it, like something you've wrote in your little bedroom could potentially save somebody's life.
Well, let's not go that far.
But that's that. But
I
that's,
might
that's
get a
true.
bit of self-inflated ego
But
here.
it's true though, and I think that's the important thing about it is, you know, I think when we talk about testicular cancer, and we do have the kind of survival rates and things like that, and they're all very good if you early detection, if you get seen early enough, and everything goes well for you. Yeah, but unfortunately, we still have that taboo, that stigma, that embarrassment around going to the doctors, that there is still young men dying of testicular cancer because they're leaving it so late. You know, and you look at, I was a young football player called Dylan Tombides. He was Australian, and was playing with West Ham, was about to go on, he was about to go on tour
was it
with
Bundesliga?
no, that was Sebastian Haller.
So
yes, he played with West Ham as well. But Dylan was Australian and was about to go and play with the Socceroos, and they got a what do you call it, a blood test done for anti-doping. But it says that you're either taking performance enhancing drugs or you've got a tumour. And he knew right away. He's like, well, I've got a tumour because I've not taken any. And unfortunately, you know, Dylan had a kind of a good first round, and then his cancer came back and sadly passed away. I think he was 24, you know what I mean? So 24 years of age, you know, and his mum and his brother, they created a charity themselves, the DT38 Foundation, which is part of the, I think they will be part of the Testicular Cancer Network. I might have to cut this bit out because I don't think they are yet, but they are somebody that we've had his mum Tracy on to speak about that. And I think that's the thing, that if we can open up these conversations and have guys like yourself being able to portray people who are then now speaking about it and showing, because see, if I think from what I got from reading the script was that if I was sitting there watching it and I didn't check myself, but I went along to see a play and I came away, and like, you're right, we all know one of the characters, we all know somebody that's in there, and to be able to go, for that to sink into your psyche and actually go, yeah, I totally understand that, and I'll go away and do that now. I think that's such an important thing. And again, I'm not being hyperbolic. You could save somebody's life with a play like this.
I'm going to record this on cue and just play it every morning. But something that I did do specifically as well while I was writing is it comes from nowhere. Like, it's not something that we mention at the beginning of the play. Like, literally the first time you hear about testicular cancer is when Paul tells you he's found a lump, which is...
But that's genuine, though.
Which is how it happens, do you know what I mean? Nobody sits and thinks, well, I know, especially when I check all that, I don't sit and think, oh, this could be going wrong, do you know what I mean? And now I do actively, since I've wrote the show, I actively check myself on a regular basis, and I actively encourage other people to do it, despite sounding like an actual pervert. But it had to come out of, because that does happen, and in the show, Paul's got his issues, but he's got a baby on the way. He's got a good job, a good network of friends, and has genuinely a good life. And then all of a sudden, he might have testicular. Well, it gets revealed in the end of the show that he did have testicular cancer. So it just came out of nowhere, and that was something that I specifically did. Because when do you ever anticipate things like that happening?
Yeah, news like that always comes as a shock. Even different types of cancer, it just can come from nowhere all the time. Yeah,
I think as well, like when... Again, and I implore, you know, all the supporters and all the people who are going to watch this, and because it's based around testicular cancer, like in terms of like this podcast, you know, you're maybe just reaching the people who have had it, or the friends and family. But I think it's something that, you know, to delve into a little bit of psyche of those first moments of, oh fuck, I might have this. I think you capture that beautifully,
Thank you.
And I think it's something that, again, I can only say as somebody who's been through it and reading it. And I was literally saying it to Richie this morning when I was on the phone. I was like, mate, I know we've not had the chance to come along.
Tickets are sorted. I'm ready for you to come.
And Richie was saying that. He says we have to make sure we go. And I was like, we really, really do, because I want to see what's on the screen.
It's much better acted than it is written. But talking about that, if you don't mind me mentioning, to anyone listening, if you sign up for the Cahonas self-check text reminders online and then DM High Productions on Instagram with a screenshot of your confirmation text, we'll give you a discount code and you can get a ticket for a tenner.
Beautiful.
So sign up for the self-check reminders and you get a discounted ticket.
That's awesome. No, that's great. And I think that's something that, again, it's just these wee things that, gets people thinking anyway. And people you might get somebody hearing this and go,
I'll get the discount, so I'll sign up. I don't care.
Yeah.
But then in 3 months, they get a random text and they go, I saw that play and now I might check myself.
Exactly. And I think that's... Do you think then, within, there's a play, but in these, you're having to be kind of a little bit bolder, a little bit braver, because of the...
I was terrified the entire time.
Right.
Especially, Jamie's well written purely because it's me.
Right.
I was terrified of taking my clothes off. I didn't want to have these conversations. And I genuinely, we're talking more maybe about the full monty of taking my clothes off on stage. I didn't eat for 3 days before opening night. Not because I was trying to get skinny, we were well past that point, but because everything made me feel sick.
Right.
We went in to the Glasgow Acting Academy the first day. Lucian said to me, how are you feeling? And I was like, terrible. And I was truly terrified. And everyone kept saying, see, it's great, because I am terrified of doing the lines and doing the show, but I'm really ready to do the full Monty. And I was like, I'd rather do the show backwards in, I don't know, German, and just learn that now than take my clothes off. And I was terrified for a solid 6 months, just lived in a state of absolute terror.
Right.
And I'm still there.
Still there.
Not even after the oven shows.
Do you know
when
what?
you're
It was fine. See, when we were doing it, and I got really brave. I went on holiday right after, walked around without my top on. Enough time has passed that I'm scared again.
After opening night, though, that'll go away. Because I can imagine, obviously I didn't get to see it live because I was down south, but I can imagine it's a case of the on your side from the get-go. It's funny, it's not
specifically
sexy,
with
do you know
Jamie.
what I mean?
I think everyone else is sexy, but because I have that little scene where I'm like, I'm a fat bastard, feel sorry for me, do you know what I mean? They get on my side and they're more rooting for me to have the confidence. So I don't feel like I'm being eyed up like a piece of meat. So it is nice, but I am sort of sitting here going, Jesus, put the Easter egg down, Ingram.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing as well, though. It's like body image and things like that, even within a testicular cancer diagnosis, but I talk about this all the time. It's something, again, that we don't talk about. There's lots of we don't talk about how to check, we don't talk about testicular cancer awareness enough, but actually the big thing is the aftermath of that, losing a testicle and feeling comfortable being naked and that being almost represented on a stage where it's you guys are doing the full Monty to kind of and being brave enough to kind of go out. You'll be gutted that you aren't.
I have to wear a Rangers top, so it is worse.
Right, okay. So.
Lewis has been naked on stage before in another show, and I don't think he was a fan.
Yeah.
No, not quite. No, it wasn't so much. I was just. Aye. That was horrendous though.
It was horrendous
because it was a sorry, I'm going off topic, but it was a rehearsal process was stress. I was a last minute replacement.
Yeah.
I came on and I was ill for 2 weeks before the show started, so I'm a stick anyway. But I'd lost half a stone. I'd rocked up and I had
Where from?
No, I know exactly. Even I don't know. But
you had a haircut
that day. But no, and I was on stage looking like a ghost, so I get because I think I said to you beforehand, I'm terrified here. I look ill, and if you look back at the pictures, I did.
I think I was that stressed. I was like, just get over it.
Just get over it.
There was no time for that.
I remember going to see it was the Fringe. I was probably about 21 at the time, and I went to see a couple of friends had bought tickets to see Othello at the Fringe.
Oh, sweet.
Not knowing that it was naked Othello.
Big time.
So,
yeah.
as you can imagine,
Go on.
the main character. So, if those of you who don't know, Othello is a black man.
Did you not know that?
No, of course I didn't know what I'm going there with it though.
So it was like, why has that man got 3 legs? Oh, no, he's not.
That's a tripod.
Yeah, and you think that's a very different confidence to be able to go out and perform, like, and that be your, that's just your thing, but
There
like
was-
to put it in.
Yeah, but we're not. No one's.
Don't say that.
No one's
Do
fully
you know we're fully naked? There was a play on in Broadway a couple of years ago that I've heard through the grapevine about, and there was this scene where it was a rugby team, I think, and then one of the guys had come out as gay, so the vibe had sort of changed,
Right.
and then all of a sudden the whole cast just stripped naked, and showers came down from the ceilings, and they all had an actual shower on stage, and it was, who was I talking to about it? Oh, Jesus Christ, I can't remember. I think it might have been Irene White from Superstore, NBC's Superstore. And she was saying for like the first 2 minutes, it was like, hee, 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 hee. And then it just became this sort of really serious play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so sorry, you could not pay me enough to get... Maybe you could if you came and seen the Naked Neds. You couldn't pay me enough to do full frontal nudity.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Bye. It's just like, no. Just
Some things are for me in my bedroom mirror only.
Do you know what's funny to talk about another play? I saw my friend Hannah Harker in a play at the Fringe last year. I don't know if you might have seen it. It was called, I think it was called Boobs.
Oh, we got one of the flyers. We're out with the kids, but we got a flyer about it.
Did you see that?
We never saw it, but
it was amazing.
Was it?
So basically, the premise of it was they played two boobs, and they were like, it's hard to explain. You know when like, what's the movie that in the wee girl's head? It's just a second one just came out. Inside Out.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of that sort of vibe, and they played, but one of the boobs got caught up with breast cancer, and she was slowly dying, and it was beautiful, and I think it's doing another round at the Fringe. So if you get a chance to go and see it, go and see it. Quite similar to what we're trying to do, but a totally different.
Maybe we could do some cross-promoting.
This is
Yes,
it. And
Get in touch.
she's a nightmare to text me back, but I'll text her.
Call her out on a podcast about it. Why don't you?
she'll
Leave
listen.
that in.
No, she'll listen to the podcast, but she won't text me. But no, it's a different premise to what we're doing, but equally so so
important.
powerful.
Yeah.
So there's so many. We can encourage more of this, I would say.
Yeah.
And as well, if any ladies want to come and see the Naked Neds and want the discounted tickets, sign up for Copperfield's self-check reminders, and I'll give you the same discount code.
Yeah. It's funny though, because like I remember being like, because we were out just like going through Edinburgh. I think we actually went to Camera Obscura with the kids, but as we were coming back down the Royal Mile, we were handed like it might have been because there was 2 girls like in boob outfits.
That would have been her.
Yeah, and they were handing out the flyers, and obviously like because we were with the
She's
kids, we
very
didn't
loud.
know, but it must have been this same girl. Like, but my thought was like, it went straight to like Naked Neds as well, and I thought like it's great that that there is this new type of idea of how to get health and make it interesting as well. I suppose then it's like going forward for you, like you're not going to base everything around like these types of topics, but as a writer of something that's going to be kind of seen as a great tool for testicular cancer awareness. What's next for you in terms of your writing career and things like that as well?
Just had a meeting yesterday with my co-writer. We're going to write another play. I'm currently writing something about Glasgow's famous traffic cone, which is hopefully going to be towards the end of the year. And do you know what? I love the Naked Neds, and I don't, even as we come up to this tour, I still feel slightly unfulfilled's not the right word, but unfulfilled. And I'll call people out. I want to go to the Pavilion. I want to go and do bigger venues. I want to go and do more cities. I mean, I'm working with a limited budget. I'm working with my wallet is what's happening. So we're going where we can. We're only doing 9 nights at the Fringe because we had other shows booked in around that. I'd love to go and do a full run at the Fringe. It's definitely other things on the horizon, and not much that I can really talk about at the moment just because they haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
Still writing, still getting away. But I can't see the end of the Naked Neds being anytime soon. And I think somebody that I know made a joke. They're doing another show about knife crime they're called Giza Break Productions. They're doing When We Were Young. I'm sure it's the last tour. We were talking not long ago, and he made a joke and said, "We're the world's oldest young team." And I definitely think I can see us being the world's oldest Naked Neds at some point.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
I don't want to speak for you, but you could take inspiration from I'm Not a Billy, He's a Time, and in 10 years' time, the play could be running, but it's not us. It's just other actors,
That would defeat the point of me being on stage.
It's
you know what I mean? It's me with a load of 25-year-olds hitting 40. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I could.
Hello, fellow children.
I can totally see Glasgow.
Do you like the PlayStation?
Oh, Jesus. I can totally see Glasgow falling in love with it and accepting it as their own. Do you know?
No, I would agree with that. Like, I would agree. And then, just like the kind of the overall. This is just my takeaway from it. The overall message being, speaking up saves lives. And it does that no matter what you need to speak up about. Be it testicular cancer, be it what's going on within you in terms of your own mental health and things like that. What's like coming at it from two different places as somebody who's writing and producing it and somebody who's acting in it. What takeaway do you want people who come and see it to have?
I want a lot of people to be touched by it, because they're real people, they've got real things going on, but they need to understand the severity of it as well.
I think more, not a takeaway, but I would encourage people to come to it ready to laugh, ready to have a good time, and just be open-minded. Like, don't come with any sort of preconceived notions. Just come ready to have a conversation afterwards. Doesn't matter what you take away. It's about the conversations you have right after. And just please come and please be open. And I'd say right in all of my director's notes, I literally just sent the book off to be published. And it's so important. And please ask your mates how they are. And if they say I'm fine, ask again. Because if something does happen, you don't get to ask again. And if something's not right, go and get it checked out. I know it's a nightmare to get a doctor's appointment. Be persistent. Just come, be open, check on your mates. I don't care whether you liked the show. I don't care whether you think I'm hilarious. Please do. But like, none of that matters in the grand scheme of things. Just come, check on yourself, check your mates, it doesn't even have to be your mates. Just be open-minded and speak up if you need help, because I'd much rather listen to your story than come to your funeral. Yeah,
no, it's a great way to put it, and that's so true. And then Lewis, for you acting it, and what would it be that if you could say anything, to young men who are going to be listening to this, that maybe aren't going through a testicular cancer diagnosis, but are hearing somebody who is acting in something that's talking about this, what would you want to say to them?
Just like Ingram said earlier, just be open to it, be understanding of it, accept that it happens, and accept that talking to your friends. What I always say is I don't feel braver. I always feel the most brave when I've spoke about something. Do you know, there's this like toxic masculinity where you need to pump loads of iron at the gym. It's just no for me. But I think if you can be vulnerable and you can be being vulnerable to your own emotions and understanding to your friends is what I want people to take from it.
Yeah, and I'm honestly, like, I'm so happy that he's wanted to come on, and
thank you for having us.
And I'm so grateful for the support that you've given Cahonas and reaching out to
thank you so much for. I couldn't be more. I'm sticking that logo everywhere. Do you know what I mean? I've got it in white and black now. It can go on any kind of. No, it's been absolutely invaluable to have you guys come on board and just double check that everything's right. Because again, I could have been the idiot that goes, we're going to teach everyone how to do this.
But I think it's great that as well. It's like, because we're such we are a Scottish charity, we're a small Scottish charity, that it's just me and Richie, and we do, much like yourself, if there's somebody who wants us up north or somebody who wants us down south, we will be there with bells on. But the fact that, we have the support of, guys like yourself who are using your platform to then promote just testicular health, which is great in itself, but using Cahonas as that vehicle for that, I can speak on behalf of Richie, we're really, really grateful for that. So thank you so much. And Yeah.
As Paul says in the show, we've all got to look after each other because the government isn't.
That's very
Don't know
true.
if you'll cut that. That got slightly political. No, we've all got to look after each other, and we've got to figure it all out. And it's been a mad couple of years, pandemics, actors' strikes, and we're going to get through it, and we're all going to be good. And then in a couple of years, when it's all over, we're all going to go for one massive piss up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
His eyes lit up at the mention of booze.
Yeah. And I this will probably get cut anyway, but it's no, I wouldn't, because we're going to be launching it. We're getting a beer made, so we'll have to get some beer as well. So
Could we get some for the show?
Yeah, because
we can stick it on stage.
I think 100% we could. Yeah.
Any stout?
It's just a drinking lager.
I'll just take whatever's got the highest percentage.
So Pilot, who are an Edinburgh-based brewery, they're doing it's called Czech. So it's a Czech beer. So, but they've actually like imported the. They usually just use like Scottish malts and oats and things like that, but they've imported stuff for Czechoslovakia. So, but it's Czech written with a CHE rather than like the Czech stuff. So that's coming out either the end of the month or the start of next month. So yeah, well.
And do you know what? I'll say this straight up, because you can drink on the streets in Edinburgh. I will be on the streets of Edinburgh from the 1st till the 9th of August. Come and see me. I'll be wearing a big t-shirt that says "Want to see me naked" and boxers, and I'll have some cans of Pilot on me. So come and get a can of beer off me if you're listening. I don't know how if that's legal to just.
You'll need to ID people.
Yes. No children.
Yeah,
Bring your ID.
Bring your ID.
Aye, and then that's like you say, a big old piss up, and it'll be fine.
I can't wait. Fancy it?
Always,
See you
always.
I'm washing my hair that day, actually.
But no, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you very much for having
Cheers,
us.
appreciate it.
If you want to come and see the Naked Neds, we're across the country stripping all summer long, so you can get your tickets for a full list of dates and venues at the www.thenakedneds.com.